I never thought I'd fall in love underground, but that's exactly where it happened. 300 feet below the surface, in a copper mine in northern Montana, where the air tastes like metal and the darkness is so complete, it feels like a living thing pressing against your skin. My name is Owen, and I've been working in the mines for 6 years now. Started when I was 22, fresh out of community college with a degree I wasn't using and student loans I couldn't ignore. The money's good if you can handle the work, and I could. I'm strong, I keep my head down, and I don't mind the solitude. Down there in the tunnels, it's just you and the rock and the rhythm of your own breathing. I liked that simplicity. No complications, no expectations, just the work. That changed the day Adrian joined our crew. I remember watching him during the safety orientation, thinking he wouldn't last a week. He was tall and lean, with dark hair that kept falling into his eyes and this way of listening that made you feel like every word you said mattered. He had gentle hands, which seemed wrong for this kind of work. When our supervisor, a gruff guy named Hank, explained the emergency procedures, Adrian's eyes were intense, focused, taking it all seriously in a way that most new guys didn't. Most guys tried to act tough, like they already knew everything. Adrian just listened. We got paired up on his second day. Standard procedure is to put new miners with experienced ones for the first month. I wasn't thrilled about it. Training someone meant extra responsibility, meant watching out for more than just yourself in an environment where distraction could get you killed. But Hank assigned him to me, and that was that. "Owen, right?" Adrian said when we met at the shaft entrance that morning. His voice was deeper than I expected. Warm. "Thanks for showing me the ropes. I promise I won't slow you down." "Everyone slows down at first," I said, probably more gruffly than necessary. "Just stay close and do exactly what I tell you." He nodded, and we descended together into the darkness. Those first few days I barely talked to him beyond what was necessary for the work. Point out the safety markers, explain the equipment, demonstrate the drilling technique. He was a quick learner, I'll give him that. Picked things up faster than most, and he wasn't afraid of the work itself, the physical strain of it. By the end of the first week, he was keeping pace with me, his movements becoming more confident, but it was the little things I started noticing. The way he'd double-checked my equipment before we descended, even though I'd been doing this for years, how he'd position himself slightly between me and any falling debris, like some kind of instinct he couldn't control. The way his face would flood with relief every time we surfaced at the end of a shift. "You worry too much," I told him after he'd spent 5 minutes inspecting my harness before a descent. "I've done this 1,000 times." "I know," he said, not looking up from the buckle he was checking. "But it only takes once, right? One time when something goes wrong." Something about the way he said it made my chest feel tight. Like he was talking about more than just mining safety. Like the thought of something happening to me actually mattered to him. I shook it off. Told myself he was just conscientious, a careful guy. Nothing more. But then there was the day 3 weeks in when I slipped. We were working in one of the deeper tunnels, placing support beams. The ground was wet from a leak in the ventilation system, and my boot caught on a rock I didn't see. I went down hard, my knee slamming into the stone floor. Pain shot up my leg, sharp and hot. Before I could even process what happened, Adrian was there, his hands on my shoulders, his face inches from mine in the dim light of our headlamps. "Owen, are you okay? Talk to me." His voice was urgent, almost panicked. "I'm fine," I managed, even though my knee was screaming. "Just slipped." "Let me see." He was already examining my leg, his touch surprisingly gentle as he checked for injuries. "Can you bend it? Does this hurt?" I should have been embarrassed, should have pushed him away and insisted I was fine. But there was something about the way he was looking at me, the genuine concern in his eyes, that made me stay still and let him check me over. "Nothing broken," I said. "Just bruised. Happens all the time down here. That doesn't make it okay, he said quietly. His hands were still on my leg, and I became suddenly acutely aware of the warmth of them through my work pants. You could have been seriously hurt. But I wasn't. Thanks to you. I met his eyes, and something passed between us in that moment. Something I wasn't ready to name. He helped me up, and we finished the shift. But things felt different after that. There was an awareness between us that hadn't been there before. I found myself watching him when I thought he wasn't looking, noticing the way his muscles moved when he lifted the heavy equipment, the line of his jaw when he concentrated, the sound of his laugh when one of the other guys told a bad joke during lunch break. I told myself it didn't mean anything. I'd always known I was attracted to men, but I'd never acted on it. Growing up in a small Montana town, you learned early to keep certain things to yourself. And the mining culture wasn't exactly known for its progressive attitudes. So I'd buried it, focused on work, convinced myself I was fine alone, but Adrian was making it harder to maintain that distance. We fell into a routine over the next few weeks. We'd ride down together at the start of each shift, work side by side in the tunnels, surface together at the end. We started having lunch together, sitting a little apart from the other guys. At first, we talked about surface things, where he was from, how he ended up in mining. Turned out he'd moved to Montana from Oregon, wanted a fresh start after a bad breakup. He didn't specify the gender of his ex, and I didn't ask. "What about you?" he asked one day, unwrapping the sandwich he'd packed. "You from around here?" "Born and raised about 50 miles north. Small town, nothing special. Family's still there. My Dad died when I was in high school. Mining accident, actually. I don't know why I told him that. I never talked about my dad." Adrian's hand found mine just for a second, a brief squeeze of understanding. "I'm sorry. It's okay. It was a long time ago." But my hand was tingling where he'd touched it. The thing about working underground is that you develop a different kind of trust with your partner. You're literally trusting them with your life every single day. You learn to read each other's movements, anticipate each other's needs. Adrian and I developed that connection faster than I'd ever experienced with anyone else. We moved together like we'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. When I needed a tool, he'd hand it to me before I asked. When he was struggling with a stubborn bolt, I was already there to help. Hank noticed. "You two work well together," he commented one day. "Might make it permanent if you're both interested." Adrian looked at me, and I saw hope in his eyes. "I'd like that," he said. "Yeah," I agreed. "That'd be good." But it was more than good. It was becoming the best part of my day. Going down into the dark with Adrian felt less like descending into danger and more like entering our own private world. A place where it was just the two of us, working in sync, existing in a bubble of shared purpose. The shift happened on a Tuesday in October. We were working in a section of tunnel that had been giving us trouble all week. Unstable rock formations, odd sounds in the walls. Hank had us reinforcing the supports, making sure everything was secure before they started blasting in the adjacent tunnel. Adrian and I were installing the last beam when we heard it. A deep groan from somewhere in the rock above us, like the mountain itself was shifting. "We need to move," I said immediately, grabbing Adrian's arm. "Now!" We ran. Behind us, I heard the terrible sound of rock giving way. Dust filled the air, choking and thick. My headlamp barely cut through it. I kept my hand locked around Adrian's wrist, pulling him forward, trusting my memory of the tunnel layout to get us to safety. We made it to a reinforced junction just as the ceiling behind us collapsed. The sound was deafening, a roar of falling stone that seemed to go on forever. When it finally stopped, the silence was almost worse. Adrian was pressed against me in the small space, both of us breathing hard. I could feel his heart racing, or maybe that was mine. The dust was starting to settle, and in the beam of my headlamp I could see his face. He was terrified. "Are you hurt?" I asked, running my hands over his arms, his chest checking for injuries. No, I'm okay." "You?" "I'm fine. We're fine." I pulled out my radio, tried to raise Hank. Nothing but static. The collapse must have been bigger than I thought. "Radio's not working. They'll know something's wrong when we don't check in." "How long until they can get to us?" "Depends on how bad the collapse is. Could be hours, could be longer." I tried to keep my voice calm, professional. "We've got air, we've got light. We'll be okay." Adrian nodded, but I could see he was shaking. Not from cold, from fear. "Hey," I said softly, putting my hand on his shoulder. "Look at me. We're going to be fine. I've been through this before. They have protocols. They'll dig us out." "I know, He took a shaky breath. "When I heard that sound, all I could think was that I might not get to tell you." "Tell me what?" He looked at me then, really looked at me. And I saw everything in his eyes. All the things I'd been feeling but hadn't let myself acknowledge. All the careful attention, the worry, the way he always made sure I was safe. It wasn't just about being a good partner. It wasn't just about following safety protocols. "That I care about you," he said quietly. "More than I should. More than is probably smart, given where we work and who we work with. But I do. I think about you all the time. I look forward to every shift because it means being near you. And when I thought that ceiling was going to come down on us, all I could think was that I'd never told you any of that." My heart was hammering in my chest. I should have said something safe, something that would maintain the distance I'd worked so hard to keep. But trapped in the dark, with the weight of the mountain above us and Adrian's confession hanging in the air between us, I couldn't lie. "I care about you too," I said. "I've been trying not to, trying to keep it professional. But Adrian, you make it impossible. The way you look at me, the way you always make sure I'm safe, the way we work together like we're two parts of the same person. I've never felt this with anyone." He closed the distance between us, and I didn't stop him. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing over my cheekbone. "Can I kiss you?" I answered by pulling him closer, pressing my lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, like we were both afraid the other might pull away. But then Adrian made this small sound in the back of his throat, and something in me just gave way. I kissed him harder, deeper, pouring 6 weeks of wanting into it. His arms came around me, and I held him like I'd wanted to hold him since that first day. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard again, but for entirely different reasons. "I've wanted to do that for so long," Adrian whispered against my lips. "Me too," I admitted. "God, me too." We stayed like that, holding each other in the dark, until we heard the sounds of the rescue team breaking through. It took them 4 hours to reach us. 4 hours of sitting together, talking about everything we'd been holding back. He told me about his last relationship, a guy who'd cheated on him and made him feel like he wasn't enough. I told him about growing up afraid of who I was, about never letting anyone close. We made plans for after we got out. Dinner somewhere, a real date, a chance to see what this could be outside of the darkness. When they finally pulled us out, the whole crew was waiting at the surface. Hank looked relieved. The other guys were clapping us on the backs, asking if we were okay. But I only had eyes for Adrian. He was dusty and exhausted, and absolutely beautiful in the afternoon sunlight. The thing I'll never forget, though, is what happened the next day when we reported for our shift. Word had gotten around about the collapse, about how close we'd come. The guys were treating us differently, more carefully, like we were fragile. But when we got to the shaft entrance, ready to descend for the first time since the accident, I hesitated. It wasn't fear exactly, more like a sudden awareness of how much I had to lose now. Before Adrian, it was just me. If something happened, well, that was the risk of the job. But now there was someone who cared if I came back up, someone waiting for me. Adrian must have seen it on my face. He stepped closer, his hand finding mine for just a second where the others couldn't see. "We'll be careful," he said quietly. "We'll watch out for each other, just like always." And we descended together. That was 3 months ago. We're still working the same shifts, still partnering up every day. The other guys don't know about us yet. We're careful at work, professional. But after our shifts, we go back to the apartment Adrian rented, and we don't have to hide. We cook dinner together. We fall asleep on his couch, watching movies. We talk about the future, about maybe finding work that doesn't require us to risk our lives every day. But here's the thing that gets me every single time. At the end of every shift, when we're heading up in the elevator, Adrian always goes first, and when I come up after him, he's always there, standing at the shaft entrance, waiting, every single time. Even if he's exhausted, even if it's raining or snowing, even if Hank is yelling at everyone to hurry up and clock out, he waits. The first time I noticed, I asked him about it. "You know I'm coming up, right? You don't have to wait." He looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous. "Of course I wait. I need to see you come up safe. Every time. Every time. Every time," he confirmed. "Until you're standing next to me in the sunlight. I'm not leaving." I think that's when I knew I loved him. Not in the tunnel when we kissed for the first time, not during those 4 hours trapped underground, but in that moment, seeing the absolute certainty in his eyes, the promise that he would always wait, always make sure I made it back to the surface. Last week, I told him I loved him. We were at his apartment, making dinner. He was chopping vegetables and I was watching him, and the words just came out. "I love you." He put down the knife and turned to me, his eyes bright. "Say that again." "I love you, Adrian. I think I've loved you since you insisted on checking my harness that first week. But I know I love you now. I love that you wait for me at the shaft entrance. I love the way you make me feel safe even when we're 300 feet underground. I love who I am when I'm with you." He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. "I love you too," he whispered. "I loved you the first time you smiled at me. I loved you when you held my hand in the dark. I love you every single day." We're talking about leaving the mine. Maybe moving somewhere with better opportunities. Somewhere we don't have to hide who we are. Adrian wants to go back to school. Maybe become an engineer. I'm thinking about using my degree finally. Maybe teaching. We're saving up. Making plans. But for now, we descend together every morning into the darkness. We work side by side, watching out for each other, moving in that perfect sync we've developed. And at the end of every shift, I ride up in that elevator knowing exactly what I'll find when I reach the surface. Adrian, waiting at the shaft entrance, his face flooding with relief when he sees me step out safe. Every single time, like I'm something precious, like I'm something worth waiting for. I never thought I'd fall in love underground, but that's exactly where it happened. In the darkness, 300 feet below the surface, where I learned that the best kind of love is the kind that waits. The kind that checks your harness even when you don't think you need it. The kind that holds your hand in the dark and promises you're not alone. The kind that stands at the shaft entrance every single day until you come up safe. Total char count, 24,847.